Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Six. You want to sit down and have a meal together? What if the chef was God? The provision would be phenomenal, would it not? I would be so ready to eat his cuisine. But what if all that was on the menu was just cereal? Like only cereal. Like forever. For years. Let's take a look at Numbers chapter 11. Get your Bible open, Numbers 11, and let's see what God's cooking up for us today. Come on with me. Oh, friends, I believe the Lord has something for us today that's way tastier than a lifetime diet of Frosted Flakes and olive oil. We're 11 months into Israel's journey through the desert after they've left Mount Sinai, where God spoke to them. We studied last week. We also read last week how in the desert, God provided for them food and water. You know, the desert's a hard place. Nobody lives there for a reason. There's nothing there to eat, nothing to drink. And supernaturally, every single morning, they would come out of their tent. They would find this flake-like substance upon the ground. It tasted like honey, like something that was made with olive oil. And yet it was full of nutrients and provision. God was supernaturally providing for them this miracle every single morning. They would be starving to death without it. But human nature being what it is. I mean, I like Frosted Flakes, don't you? But not for every meal. And so they begin to complain. They begin to grumble. You got Numbers chapter 11 open? Verse 1 says that the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. And I connect with that word hardships. I get it. The desert life is hard. But when God heard them complaining, his anger was aroused. And you might feel like that's an unfair thing for God to have anger stirred at this. But, you got to remember, you and I are made in the image of God. Our ability to have emotions comes from the Lord, the same way that you and I react. There's an ungratefulness. And, when you've done something, you've really poured out for somebody else and they become ungrateful to you, well, you get angry too, right? Where does that nature, that instinct come from? Well, it comes from the Lord. So we got to give God a little permission to have some emotions in this circumstance. But I think verse 4 of chapter 11 tells us probably why God is getting as wound up about this as he is. In verse 4, it says the rabble, catch that word rabble, hang on to that. The rabble that was with them, with the Israelites, they began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing, and they said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt. It came at no cost to us. We also remember the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now we've lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. They've got this fond memory of what life was like in Egypt. And for sure, they had a more diverse diet, no question. But they're forgetting their slavery, their bondage, the oppression. They're forgetting how much they cried out to the Lord for deliverance. And so God is taking them through a deliverance process, and they're uncomfortable now. They're unhappy now. It's like, oh God, I wish we'd stayed in Egypt. But there's another influence that's happening here. It's that word rabble. It's the only time in the Old Testament this word appears. But it's a word that speaks of a group of foreigners who had joined in with the Israelites. Very likely these were Egyptian people, maybe some Egyptian slaves, or maybe some impoverished in Egypt. They liked what God was doing and bringing them out of Egypt and leaving Pharaoh, and so they tagged along. But they hadn't really bought into this relationship with the Lord. And so they're influencing the Israelites to reject the help that God has given them, to become ungrateful and to grumble. Friends, here's what's speaking to me about this. Do you and I ever get ungrateful, even for the hardships the Lord is taking us through? Of course, you don't like hardships, but sometimes God has to lead us through that journey. Sometimes there's a pathway in our life that's going to be difficult. And the world around us may say, man, why are you following the Lord? Doesn't your life look a little harder now that you're following Jesus? I mean, hey, before you were following the Lord, we all partied, we had all this reveling, all this fun, and we very quickly forget how empty that life is. And it breaks the heart of God. Well, God gave them what they asked for. Skip down to verse 18. God instructs Moses, Tell the people, consecrate yourselves. In other words, get ready in preparation for tomorrow you are going to eat meat. You want meat? I'll give you meat, God says. For the Lord heard you when you wailed. If only we'd had meat to eat, we're better off in Egypt. Well, okay, so the Lord will give you meat and you will eat it. But you'll eat it not just for 1 day, not for 2 days, not for 5, not for 10 or 20 days, but for an entire month until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it. Because you have rejected the Lord who's among you, and you've wailed before him, saying, why did we ever leave Egypt? Friends, God is not being mean here. He's saying, listen, if you're getting nostalgic for what you used to have, okay, I'm going to give it to you. And it sounds a little harsh, but again, God has emotions like you and me. He says, all right, you want meat? Here you go. I'm going to give you everything you asked for until you recognize how unsatisfactory it is because you wish you could go back to your old way of life. But what I'm providing for you, friends, is in fact better. Oh, beloved, can you give God another 6 minutes and can you examine in your heart? Are there things that God is doing in your life? He's taking you things. Maybe it is through things that are a little difficult, a little dry. Maybe there is a desert in your life right now spiritually. And maybe you think about life before Christ or life without Christ. Looks like they're having a lot of fun. But is that really what you want? And are you breaking the heart of God that he's providing for you so much blessing? Ask the Lord to show you, is there any ungratefulness in my heart? And then come on back tomorrow and let's see what the Lord is going to do with the people of Israel. Give God 6 more minutes. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Daily 6.